Hi, and welcome to another episode of Rukus Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing Animus, the draft building card game. Attempting to rule the universe, mysterious entities sought the power of the singularity. Their tampering caused it to erupt and scatter its power across time and space. Around the multiverse, various beings were infused with parts of this power. Now the entities seek to gather this power for their own avaricious desires. As one of them, you must now gather your forces and fulfill your destiny. Animus is a two-player card battle game where players draft characters and deploy them onto the battlefield to attack their opponent, in a race to be the first to force their opponent to discard at least 10 points worth of characters. Characters have unique abilities, different classes, and varying strengths for ranged and melee attacks. Card positions determine who you can battle with and what stat you'll use to battle them, and character classes determine who gets the advantage when battling other characters. So let's take a look at what I like and what I feel could be improved in Animus, the draft building card game. Strategy is the name of the game here, as with most card battle games, and is the one area of the game that I love the most and the one that I feel could be the most improved. Aside from the drafting aspect, which has a strategy all of its own once you kind of figure out how the game plays, the main part of this game that sets it apart is the play area. In the middle of each person's play area is a card that players choose at the beginning of the game. It stays there the whole game and its power is always active. Well, in most cases always active. And cards are placed in certain positions, starting with melee, then range, then support, which determine which of your opponent's characters you can fight with, as well as what stat you use when you're fighting with them. This is definitely one of the more interesting parts of the game, as each character has a different melee and range stat, but the melee stat can only be used by the melee character when fighting another melee character, and the range stat is used in every other situation, except for the support characters who aren't allowed to attack at all. But this means that characters in the support position are protected from being attacked by the opponent and are still able to use their character ability. When battling, both players roll a 6-sided die, then add their strength stat based on what type of attack was performed. This can seem a bit swingy, especially whenever you consider the fact that most characters are within 2 strength of each other for any kind of attack. And, well, if you're fighting with 2 characters of the same strength level, then there's basically a 50-50 chance that you're going to win. But this is where the advantage system comes into play. Basically, each card belongs to one of 3 classes, with a paper, rock, scissors type of setup. Red has advantage over green, green has advantage over blue, and blue has advantage over red. When you have advantage, you get to roll 2 dice and choose which one to keep, thus increasing the chances that you'll win the fight. Then, there are the character abilities. Each character has an ability that executes in one of the various phases of the fight, and generally allows you to do things like adding damage, or even removing characters from the play area. These abilities are generally not affected by a random situation, and sometimes even happen after you lose a battle, thereby giving you a potential benefit to the battle either way. The main goal of the game is to get your opponent to discard 10 points worth of cards. The points for the cards are labeled in the top right corner of the card and can be either 1, 2, or 3. This aspect of the cards actually adds an interesting level of strategy that I didn't even notice until the end of the first game I was playing, whenever I was going back over my cards to kind of see how I could have done better. Generally speaking, cards worth 3 points have better skills or better melee attacks, while cards worth 1 point have skills that may not be quite as useful to you. But cards worth 1 point have the fairly large advantage of only being worth 1 point to your opponent. Therefore, you can sort of throw them into the fray and take a lot more risks with losing them because it'll take a lot more of them to lose you the game. In fact, while I'm not sure it's possible, if you were to get a hand full of only 1 cards, you couldn't even lose the game, since there are only 9 cards in your hand and it takes 10 points to win. But all of these things are things you have to take into account all the way at the beginning of the game during the drafting phase. It's good to have some cards with some really useful abilities, but you also have to make sure that you maintain the appropriate balance of melee versus range cards, having each class represented properly, and making sure that you don't have so many 3 cards that you will just lose the game after you've lost your 4th character. These are all things that I really like about the game, and the change-ups caused by the drafting and the fact that you play with only about half of the cards each time that you play really make the game fun and interesting and different every single time that you play it. But there's still a little bit of a strategy layer that I feel is missing that could really take this game to the next level. As an attacker, I'd love to see an occasional extra boost that could sort of give you an attacker advantage. And as a defender, I'd love to see some sort of a counter ability. Now mind you, there are a number of cards which have reactions, which generally happen whenever you're attacked. But your cards are, well, literally all on the table, so your opponent will always be able to see and plan for whatever you can do. Even if it were just one card per player that you draw randomly from your deck and then put back in there to draw again later, there'd always be that chance of an unexpected, oh no you don't, or right back at you at just the right time and really shake things up. This game's a little bit different than most card battle games. You go into each battle knowing that there's a chance that you will lose. And from the drafting portion of the game all the way to the very end, you have to keep that in mind and build your strategies around it. To be honest, when I first got this game, I was really excited about it, but then once I started looking through the rules a little bit and testing the game out myself, I wasn't really sure about the dice aspect of the game. It seemed a little bit swingy to me, but then once I kind of got the rules down and got the flow down playing it with someone else, and I started to realize where all the strategies are, I definitely didn't feel that way anymore. I really enjoyed this game, I really enjoyed playing it quite a bit, and I definitely see it coming back to my table, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what new characters and abilities are going to be in the upcoming expansions. I hope you enjoyed this review for Animus, the draft building card game by Ed Rodriguez and Nightstalker Games. Feel free to comment below and let me know what you thought of this video, as well as if you disagreed with any of my opinions, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Until then, Rukus.